Hello, I'm the Red Man. It's opening day, and I am so excited to witness another season of New York Yankee baseball. Last season ended poorly. But I'm sure 2023 will be different. I mean, after 13 years of futility, the mighty New York Yankees must be eager to make radical offseason moves that will put them over the top in regards to winning so much as an American League pennant. And that is why I just cannot wait until another campaign is completed to give Brian Cashman his report card. Let's get into it, shall we? Alright, starting off on a good note, Anthony Rizzo, after a 2022 season where he had a rather middling average, but with great power and generally good defense, briefly interrupted by back troubles, opted out of his contract. Brian Cashman quickly re-signed Rizzo to another short-term deal worth a pinch more per annum. Bringing back a guy obviously is not improving the roster, but Rizzo is a fine ball player and this organization is desperately short on first baseman, so this was a move that basically needed to be made. Signing Anthony Rizzo to a 2-year, $40 million contract with a club option for a third year. Final rating, A-. The Red Man reserves the right to adjust that downward if Rizzo's brittle old man back gives out in May, or adjust it upward if he plays 150 games in 2023 as well as he played 130 games in 2022. So for a couple of arbitration signings, Cashman held on to Lou Trevino and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Trevino's fine. The bullpen is looking like it's going to be desperate for any depth, more on that in a minute, so any moderately competent relief pitcher is a welcome sight. IKF is hopefully fixing to be an inoffensively mid-bench player and not someone we have to watch play every bloody day. Again. And I only bring him up because I want to remind you that Galaxy Brain Brian traded Gio Urshela to get not just IKF on the roster, but also Joshua Donaldson.
Holy shit!
That F of a trade will echo for quite some time. Up next is... I know this isn't really a move by Brian Cashman, but the Red Man would be remiss if he didn't mention Hal Steinbrenner's role in the management of the New York Yankees, since Hal, owns the franchise. And half-wit Hal saw fit to give Brian Cashman a 4-year contract after the spectacular failure of the 2022 season marked the 13th consecutive Yankees season without winning even an American League pennant. Technically, this is the second longest pennant drought the New York Yankees have ever suffered. When the franchise was founded in 1903, it took them until 1921 to win a pennant, but they were the New York Highlanders until 1913, giving me a technicality to make Cashman look even more incompetent. The longest drought, as specifically the Yankees, was from 1982 through 1995, 14 years. To be clear, not even the CBS Yankees of the 60s were as futile for as long as the Brian Cashman Yankees, and so Hal locked down Cashman through 2026.
Why?
As in, why did Hank have to die and leave us stuck with you, Halbert? Signing Brian Cashman to 4 more years. I'm going to need to add some reverb and maybe a pinch of echo in post to really get this to hit. Final rating, F. Watching the current day Yankees feels like watching some alternate universe Godfather where Michael died and we got stuck with Fredo running the organization.
I did not do anything to deserve this.
Aw yeah, after Tommy John surgery and a brief stint in Los Angeles, Tommy Canley is back, just in time to rescue my dwindling will to live. When healthy, Conley has been a perfectly competent bullpen arm, and we desperately need the depth after Cashman dumped Lucas Litke because God knows we just need to keep Aaron Hicks on this roster until the end of time. Conley has also previously shown himself to be an absolute mad lad who will absolutely throw at people who deserve it, and also throw at people for no readily discernible reason.
What an asshole!
I am not kidding when I say that you just love to see it. I am so fucking sick of Aaron Boone's total dicklessness and Aaron Judge's Mr. Congeniality routine. Yankees who won championships would not put up with years of this shit. Roger Clemens would have been stacking bodies by now. Reggie Jackson would have started beating ass in the dugout by now. I need to see some motherfuckers fixing to go scorched earth, and Tommy Conley, provided he doesn't throw his arm out again in his third appearance, is just the guy for the job. Tommy Conley, 2 years at about $6 million per year. Final rating, give it a B. We needed a little extra meat in the bullpen, and betting a fair salary and 2 years on Conley being able to stay mostly healthy is a reasonable course of action. And naturally, when this blows up in our faces, I will be very happy to put all of the blame directly upon Brian Cashman. But I'll throw that bitch fit when we get to it. Oh snap, now we're talking. Carlos Rodon for 6 years at $160 million. This is the big dick free agency type move we've all been waiting for. I mean, it's a pitcher when the Yankees got 12 hits across the first 3 games of the ALCS, but yeah, I guess a pitcher's good too. And why not give 6 years at $22 million a pop to a guy who, in 7 years in the majors, has pitched what could be considered a full season maybe 4 times? Jesus Christ, Cashman, what have you done? Carlos Rodon, 6 years for $162 million. Final rating, he strained his forearm at the start of spring training and will miss at least most of April. Jesus fucking Christ. Here's the big one. Aaron Judge, after a season wherein he hit 62 home runs, became the true and honest home run king forever, won his first official and second rightful American League MVP award, and laughably BTFO'd Brian Cashman's embarrassingly idiotic decision to not extend Judge before the season, Aaron Judge re-signed with the Yankees for a 9-year contract worth $360 million. You really do love to see it, even though we'll all probably live to regret it when Judge's gigantic ass is struggling to get out of the dugout at age 39. But what can you do? Aaron Judge signed for 9 years and $360 million. Final rating, F.
That's right, I said it.
To be clear, this is the grade for Brian Cashman, not Aaron Judge. Judge gets A's for eternity, if only because he absolutely be-clowned Cashman for not extending him before the 2022 season, which is incidentally why Cashman gets an F. To my understanding, when Judge and the Yankees were negotiating a contract before the 2022 season, the offer from Cashman was 7 years and about $210 million. And, as I understand it, all Judge really wanted was an 8th year at that same rate for $240 million. Cashman refused and no extension was signed. Then Judge went and had himself the greatest ever offensive season of any ballplayer whose urine didn't glow in the dark, which led to the Yankees having to give him that 9 years, $360 million contract. That's a total of $120 million more than the extension Judge wanted before the season, and also $10 million per year extra on the payroll and therefore the luxury tax. In short, Brian Cashman's relentless ineptitude cost the New York Yankees $120 million.
Oh, God help me. God help him.
If I somehow managed to cost my employer $120 million, forget about an F grade, I'd probably just be executed. Cashman cost his employer $120 million and got a 4-year contract for it, courtesy of Fredo Steinbrenner, fuckwit supreme. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that Cashman has yet to actually add a hitter to a lineup that was already desperately thin on hitting beyond Aaron Judge. But hey, the entire organization swears up and down that they're working on something, quote, bigger, unquote, than the Rodon signing. Alright, I like the sound of that. What do you got for me? Wait, really? Nothing else of any significance happened before spring training? Are you double fucking kidding me? Was bigger than Rodon supposed to be referring to the stroke that watching this circus fire of a franchise is fixing to give me?
You fucking motherfuckers!
I've seen some delusional saps express optimism that Cashman can still improve things at the trade deadline. These people forget that combining Brian Cashman with the trade deadline is akin to combining a daycare with a pile of lit dynamite. And just in case you aren't already convinced that the Yankees are doomed yet again...
Wait! There's more!
It just wouldn't be the Yankees if they weren't getting constantly ass-rammed by injuries. I've already mentioned Carlos Rodon strained his forearm, but he's expected back towards the end of April, so I expect him to be the new Jacoby Ellsbury. Harrison Bader strained an oblique thanks to Rob Manfred's dickhead pitch clock. Stop fixing shit that isn't broken, you despicable varmint. And he's expected back by the end of April, so hope to see him by the All-Star break. Nestor Cortez strained his hamstring. He did it in preparation for the World Baseball Classic, which is a meaningless exhibition no one actually cares about and just needs to die.
Deal with it.
But Nestor recovered in time to get in a start before the end of spring training, so hopefully he can start off the regular season without missing a beat. Similarly, Jose Trevino sprained his wrist but made it back to the field before opening day. Far more seriously, Frankie Montas needed shoulder surgery for the shoulder injury that Brian Cashman knew Frankie had when Brian Cashman traded every pitching prospect in this organization for Frankie Montas. Brian Cashman.
You are hereby declared a full-fledged retard.
Montas is expected back in the second half of the season, so he'll make one disastrous playoff appearance. In the wildcard round. On the road. Because that's where this train wreck is heading. And do you want to know the absolute worst injury news? I hate to say it, but Aaron Hicks is perfectly healthy. One of the justifications people were trotting out for Cashman not adding a single hitter in free agency was that the Yankees had a lot of big-time prospects that were surely ready to finally hit the bigs. And indeed, the big prospects were all brought in for spring training. Oswaldo Cabrera and Oswald Peraza had some time in the bigs in 2022, and they were joined by outfielder Jason Dominguez, corner infielder Andres Chaparro, and apparent second coming of Jesus Christ, Anthony Volpe, among some other minor league invites. So, with all this hot young talent ready to go, surely Cashman was fixing to properly call them up and let a new youth movement make a charge at so much as appearing in a World Series, right?
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
Let's consider Jason Dominguez. Jason is a center fielder who is absolutely raking in his spring training at-bats. Then Harrison Bader got hurt, leaving an opening at center field. Why, that seems like a prime excuse to get Dominguez onto the major league roster. So naturally, the Yankees sent him back to the minor league camp halfway through spring training. Because, you see, the Yankees need to manipulate service time so that half of their prospect's career can be wasted in the minor leagues, in order to get their prime years available in the majors on an arbitration pay scale, so that they can get the prospect's best years without having to sign them to a massive and burdensome free agent contract. Only to, of course, sign them to a massive and burdensome free agent contract anyway because Brian Cashman cocked up getting an extension done.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Oswald Peraza was also sent down to the minors, largely because this team has entirely too many infielders because, again, Cashman is Garbo. And it's just not possible to trade someone like Gleyber Torres or even Peraza himself in order to clear this logjam and get something the roster actually needs, like a left fielder who isn't a total dickhead, or a pitcher who isn't already injured. The Yankees must instead hoard as many prospects as possible so that they can be prepared to win a World Series 3 years from now, which might be why the Yankees seem to perpetually be 3 years away from winning a World Series. In less depressing news, Oswaldo Cabrera was kept on the Major League roster, which needed to happen, frankly. Cabrera is far too versatile to not be in the bigs. If Cashman sent him down, there would have been riots. And, at the very least, my dumb ass won't have to worry about remembering which is Oswald and which is Oswaldo for the time being. And the true silver lining of all the prospect news, at last, thank God Almighty, at last, Anthony Volpe has been called up to the Major League roster.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
For the first time since Grandpa Tulowitzki in 2019, the Yankees will have a shortstop starting at shortstop. No longer will fans have to suffer through watching barely competent second basemen or up-jumped bench players struggle to play shortstop on a daily basis.
Thank God.
So there you have it, another disappointing offseason wherein the only proper additions to the roster over last season is one prospect call-up and a pitcher who is already injured. Surely this will be compounded by yet another catastrophic trade deadline, as is tradition for Brian Cashman at this point, followed by another angry video ranting into the void of the internet by me. And hey, if by some minor act of God this abject clown car of a baseball club actually manages to win the American League pennant, I will happily make a Brian Cashman apology video. I just don't see that happening. There's nothing left to do now but watch how it plays out, and wantonly shitpost in the replies of the Yankee Twitter account. In the meantime, I'm going back to complaining about video games that everyone else likes. Thank you for watching, take care.